Hi, welcome back to my next episode. This will be me telling you about what happened on the day that changed our whole life in a big whirlwind. Very emotional episode, so I want to just preference there might be some triggering things that I would like to let you know that may happen during this episode. So I just wanted to go ahead and let you know about that. So let's get into it. So on the Monday following my son's 6 month birthday, we had a 6 month checkup at his pediatrician's office. We went to the appointment, and like I said before, at the 4 month appointment, his head growth was around 100% whenever they did their curve calculations. Um, my son was still not sitting up at 6 months. That was my concern. Um, when the doctor saw his head growth, he had a puzzled look on his face, and he said that his head growth was not exactly on the curve. So he then um, said that he was a little bit concerned with it. He just wanted to make sure that nothing was going to happen. So he asked us to head over to the building just down the road and get a ultrasound of his head. So that's what we did. We headed down to get the ultrasound, and Carter did amazing, and he got like an X-ray, and he got an ultrasound, and like he was just such a calm little kid, despite having stuff put on his head, to check his brain out. I saw some images and I was like, huh. I was just curious. And I'm like, oh, is that like blood? And they're like, yeah, that's blood. That's blood on your brain and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Um, so we got done with the appointment, and we were about to head out the door, and the lady said, I need you to wait right here. Your doctor's about to call you and tell you the results of the ultrasound. And so we waited, and the doctor called, and my heart stopped in a way. Like fear just went into my whole body. Um, he started asking us, had anything happened to Carter? Like, did he like fall, hit his head? That we knew of, and to our knowledge, nothing like that had happened. We'd only had my mom watching him. We had only had one other person watch him, and we never let them watch him again. Not that they did anything. We just didn't care for them to watch him anymore. Um, Anyways, the doctor went on to explain that there was old blood that was shown on the ultrasound, and he needed further tests that the building that we were at wouldn't, you know, uh, have. So he said, I need you to go to the ER at the Children's Hospital. I will call and they will get you in immediately and we will find out what's going on. Um, so we get to the ER. We don't have enough time to truly call and tell anyone what's going on. we make a quick Facebook post that we're headed to the ER and something was wrong with Carter, that we would explain later. Um, I think I did call my mom to let her know that we were on the way to the ER, that something was going on, and that we needed her at the ER immediately. So my mom drove up and or she was already there or something. I can't remember where she was because she was helping me out with my son, but not whenever I was working. That was Chris. So anyways, I can remember walking in the children's hospital and they rush us into the back room. They immediately start putting IVs in our son. Um, they they tell us that they're going to take pictures of him. Um, that we weren't allowed to help them out with that. Um, they said that uh, they were going to give him a CT scan. They took him back for a CT scan. Um, and then after that, they came back and told us that there was blood on his brain, like in his front of his brain, and they started asking us questions like what happened and everything, and um, to our knowledge, nothing had happened to him. Um, but I'm not gonna lie, like me and Chris, we just we looked at each other and we kept asking each other, like, did you do something and not tell us? Tell me, did and like we both asked each other that because we were trying to find out. Um, I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. My husband tried to hold my hand, and I didn't know what to think. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know what to think. Not that I thought that my husband would harm my child. I didn't know. I had no clue. They told us that they were going to work it up as a trauma case. I had no clue what that meant, other than they were taking him back for pictures and they were going to be doing several exams on him to find out why his brain was bleeding. I assume that's what it was about. Anyway, so they take my 6 month old son. They tell us we can't feed him, can't give him anything to eat or drink. 6 months, can't be eating or drinking. He was breastfeeding at the time. Um, so needless to say, he was upset. He was crying. He didn't know what was going on. They take him back to X-ray, and they start taking pictures. Me and my husband are behind a wall, watching them twist and turn, and just all different kinds of angles of Carter's body. And he was screaming, very much screaming, and there was nothing I could do about it. Um, because we needed to know answers. It was just really hard to watch. Um, so anyways, those came back great, and then they took him for the CT scan. Then some guy came in and they after they hooked up the IV. This is the first time Carter had had an IV. So my mom had gotten there. So I switched with her and I walked away while they were getting the IV in because I just couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. 6 months old and having to get an IV in, and I couldn't watch. My husband was there. My mom was there. They were able to watch and get him, comfort him as much as they could. I just couldn't do it. Um, and but then my mom had stepped out and to do something, and this guy came in after they put him under some slight sedation, and they explained that they were about to check to see if his eyes had any kind of detachment at the back of his eyes. And so, anyways, they began prying my son's eyes open with some contraption and looking into his eyes. Um, and he was mildly sedated. And they just he just wasn't himself. He was just calm, and seeing them pry his eyes open was just so traumatizing to me. Um, I just never seen anything like it before. Um, anyways, so eventually, um, they got us. They told us that we had to stay overnight because the MRI wouldn't be until probably around midnight. Um, and so they put us in a room upstairs on the neuroscience wall, hallway. No nurses, no doctors. No one would talk to us about like what was going on, any results, nothing. No one would really explain things. I had not had any sleep that day, so I did and go home and take a nap while we got into the room. And around, well, a little bit, I want to say after midnight, um, my husband calls me and tells me that CPS came by and interviewed him. So probably about 12, between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, I go back to the hospital, and um, I'm there for the rest of the morning, just with my son. And my husband tells me like all that they were going to do, that they were going to come and by and interview us tomorrow, the next day. Interview me. That CPS and a social worker came by and asking him like all kinds of questions about, what any if did he fall, did he hit his head, just a whole bunch of questions. And it was just like we had already answered those questions. So, anyways, got there after the MRI had been done, and we were sitting there, and the doctors came in, and nobody really talked to us, explained to us what was going on. They kind of said some things. They mentioned that my son was floppy, something about hypotonia. No one really explained that to me. They said that we would need to see a physical therapist, and and everything, and they didn't really discuss the MRI findings when they came in. Neuro did come in eventually and talk to us, but that was after um, we had we were just sitting there, and some guy came by to ask us if we needed a break, if we needed to go get something to eat or something, and we knew he needed to go to sleep. So we asked if he would be able to try and get him to go to sleep for us, and we would go and grab some food and talk about what was going on. My mom had already dropped me off at the hospital. She was at my house making sure everything was good because we had been told by CPS that uh, there was a chance they were going to be coming back to our house, and my mom wanted to make sure everything was legit good and everything. So she had left, went to the house because she couldn't be there anyways. There was only like a two-parent limit there at the hospital at that time because of COVID. Um, and anyways, so Um, the lady called us while we were at lunch and told me and my husband that Carter had a not just one brain bleed, but two brain bleeds. No one ever told us that at all. I mean, one brain bleed is enough, but no one ever mentioned that there was a double hematoma. Um, and then I was like, and then she said that she wasn't gonna have a chance to talk to the child advocate doctor that day, that she was busy and she hadn't been answering her phone, so that she would actually be up at the hospital later that night, to make sure that Carter did not go home with us, that we would need to be thinking about someone that Carter could go home with. And so, of course, my mom was at our house cleaning, and her house hasn't had kids in it in a long time. So when we told her that, the lady was going to want us to find somewhere for Carter to stay while they investigated, um, my mom was freaking out. So, um, talking to CBS lady, she basically was like, someone did this. Someone, some caused our son to have a brain bleed. Um, and at the moment, she was using us as suspects while her investigation. And anyway, so my husband and I get on the phone. I get on the phone with this lady that I've been talking to with Chesapeake. She's a nurse. She would come out to the house regularly. She did miss like December because she was sick. But she would come out to the house. She would give us pointers on how to raise Carter, things that she felt we needed, and she would make sure that our house was good. She's a mandated reporter. I called her immediately and I told her, I said, you know that we don't do anything to Carter. You know, Carter. You know that we have been with you since through pregnancy, and that we're trying, and we've asked you for help, and you've come through, and just help. And so she called the CPS worker, and this woman scared this nurse. She said, Miss Canning, I just need you to breathe. She's like, it sounds like this woman is a rookie, or she's burnt out. She would not even listen to me. She is out for blood. So this is what you need to do. So she's like, you did nothing wrong. She's like, and just stick to it. And I will do everything in my power to be on your side. And so anyways, we get upstairs to relieve the guy, because we only got about an hour to ourselves to have some lunch and get things straight. So uh we get up there, and there's a lady with a clipboard and another lady, and she's looking at Carter and looking at him and everything. And uh we go and we find out that this is the child advocate doctor that the lady that I was just on the phone with had said that she couldn't reach out to. So anyways, this lady's sitting here and she's interviewing us the same way with everyone else has, asking us, did Carter fall? Did he do this? Did he do that? And I'm like, the only thing I could think of, and I was like, I have it on on film. I said, but it happened in the back of his head. I was like rocking him, and he accidentally hit the back of his head. It wasn't that hard either. It was just a little minor thing, and I felt so bad, and I had it on film. The only other thing that we could think of was I was trying to sit him up in his pack and play, and he fell over, and that was that past weekend. And she said, "I'm just gonna let you know he has a genetic condition." You guys have no idea the relief in a way that I had when she said it was not our fault, no one's fault, that it was something that happened in his body. It was called benign enlargement of the subarachnoid spaces in infancy, aka macrocrania. Um, Basically, this meant that his brain was expanding in his small skull and didn't have enough space, so it actually like bumped up against the skull and bled a little bit. Obviously, the doctor did not tell me that's what it was. The doctor actually told me that there's a bunch of fluid from his spine in his brain, and it made it extra sensitive, and the fall in the pack and play would have caused it to bleed. Found out later that wasn't the case. Anyways, we wound up so relieved. As soon as she told me that, as soon as she got telling me everything, I begged her. I said, please, please call CPS right now. Please let them know that we did not do this. Because she is about to bring a sheriff up here to make sure that we do not take our son home. She's like, oh no, that's not going to happen. She's like, she should have talked to me before she even told y'all what was going to happen. And I do apologize for that. So she went and called CPS, and CPS wound up calling me back and saying, okay, well, we're not going to bring the sheriff up there, but I am still going to do a home visit. No apology, nothing. That woman never once apologized for what she said to us, saying that somebody caused us. She had already looked at the MRI and talked to us prior to the doctor talking to us. We found out later she should not have even talked to us before talking to the child advocate doctor. Her only role there was to keep us in the hospital, not talk to us until she actually knew what the doctor thought. I didn't know all this until after, that this is what she wasn't supposed to do, but we'll get to that at another juncture. So, so from there we were able to gather our things, and eventually they let us go later that night. Unfortunately, I was pumping, and my mental health just plummeted that day. I was able to pump enough for my son to eat. I had extra bags at home, so my mom came and dropped them off to us so that my son could eat. He also started baby food during that time as well, so that was good. Um, it was just a really rough day, and I even agreed to CPS coming to my house, even though there was nothing that they should have worried about at that point. I agreed for her to come to our house and check our house out. Um, Eventually, she did come by the house, and the only thing she stated was there were a few boxes that if he was up and moving, she'd worry about. but that's about it. So wound wound up getting a undefined, unsubstantial letter in the mail, and then in the letter it stated you are allowed to go to court and find out who sent CPS on you. And I'm thinking, we already know. It was the hospital. We went to the hospital. It was their protocol. They are the ones that sent CPS on us prior to finding out what was going on with our son. And their CPS worker is the one that they could not control how she was treating people. She broke protocol. But anyways, that is for another day, another story. Um Needless to say, our son was fine in a way, like as far as CPS goes. We just needed to find out what caused the brain bleed exactly, and then discover about the hypotonia. So we spoke to a neurologist. We also spoke to a rehab doctor. We got him into physical therapy starting at 6 months. We also went to blood disorders to find out if blood disorders had any answers for us, and we couldn't really come up with anything. And no one suggested getting a genetic DNA test. That is going to be for another episode because you will not want to miss that one. And I will talk about that on my next episode because then we will get to my son's genetic test and how we got to that point where we went for a genetic testing. So stay tuned for that next episode, and I'm going to leave you with this story and what we went through. If you're able to message me, contact me, give me suggestions on things you want to talk about in future episodes, or if you just want to continue getting to know me and getting to know what we're going through and what we are doing, you're welcome to just stand by and ask questions later. Um, so yeah, the next episode I will start to talk about the process of how we came about finding out about Carter's two ultra rare diseases. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening. I am so grateful that you have made it this far, and I'm so excited for this podcast journey. And I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope that our story has brought any kind of hope, comfort, that you're not alone, that we or have gone through something similar so far. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you for listening. Bye.